Removing the rear wheel from a Matchless WD isn't intrinsically difficult. The chief difficulty is in getting the wheel past the metal pannier racks and the mud guard. Now this method relies on a hydraulic lift and a paddock stand. If you don't have that equipment, there is a method right at the end of the video, which is an alternative. Ideally, you should get the bike onto a workbench that you can elevate and then secure the front wheel. In my case, the pinch clamp here is just too wide to hold the wheel, so I used a brick to hold it in place. Next, carefully lower the bike off its rear stand. And then use a universal paddock stand underneath the pannier frames to raise the rear wheel. You should place the paddock stand as far back as you can get it in order not to damage the exhaust pipe. Now elevate the bike to a suitable working height and lock the mechanism. Remove the rear wheel slot from the workbench and secure the paddock stand so that it can't slide out of place. Next, we'll remove the rear stand spring. I made a simple tool for this with a piece of wire and 2 nuts and bolts. The rear stand is secured by a nut and bolt on each side. Each one has a washer, and it's important to remember that the washer always stays on the outside of the arrangement, i.e. underneath the head of the bolt, not the nut. A small piece of wood underneath the wheel will be helpful to take the weight later. Sorry for the poor camera work here. Undo the bolt at the bottom of the brake lever actuating rod and remove it along with its washer. And now remove the pin from the yoke end of the brake lever actuating rod, and this is held in place by a small split pin. Now the brake lever actuating rod can be removed. The rear brake drum is secured to the subframe by a bolt, and you must remove a split pin and then undo this. You may have noticed that the clutch is revealed because I took the chain case off to do another job, but that doesn't affect the rear wheel procedure. Now we move to the right hand side of the bike to remove the speedo cable. The nut here is quite difficult to access, but once you've got a couple of turns you can use your fingers. move the cable safely out of the way. While I'm on the right hand side of the bike, I'm going to undo the rear wheel axle nut and take the nut and its washer off. You can see that the pannier frame makes this difficult to get to. Back to the left hand side of the bike, and it's time to remove the chain. I'm using a screwdriver to take the split link away. Now you'll notice this clip has the open end pointing away from the direction of rotation and the closed end pointing towards the direction of rotation, and this is important to remember when we put it back on. Once the clip's out, it's easy to lever the link away and then move the chain safely out of the way so that we can remove the wheel. Now we'll remove the axle nut on the left hand side of the wheel. If you've already removed the axle nut from the right, you may find you don't even need a spanner for this. Now, making sure the wheel is supported, just push the axle through from left to right. As you pull the axle through from the right, a large bush should drop into your hand, and this goes between the speedo cable and the frame of the bike. The speedo unit itself will come off easily. Beware, this also has a small bush or a spacer inside it. Now if you move the wheel to the right, you'll have space to remove the little spacer which is shaped to fit the frame between the frame and the drum brake. Now you can easily remove the drum brake itself, but be careful because there's another little spacer inside the drum brake which you mustn't lose. And now you're ready to remove the piece of wood and take the rear wheel out through the slot. Now if you don't have a hydraulic workbench and a paddock stand, you could try doing it as the army would have done it in the field in the 1940s. They would have got 2 or 3 people to lift the rear of the bike. They'd withdraw the rear stand up into its upward position. They'd let some air out of the tyre so that they could squeeze it a little bit tighter, remove all the pieces and pull the wheel out from underneath. Well, I hope you find that useful. If not, then please let me know or suggest a better method. Here's a summary of all the steps involved.